Hey guys, Dr. Dave here, and we're going to be talking through what we call our I3 model here today. And a lot of people when they come in, they're dealing with an overuse injury, whether that's something from a known cause or sometimes it's an unknown cause of muscle pain, tendon pain, joint pain. And people are trying to rack their brains of like, well, why did this happen in the first place? I just kind of woke up with it. It was something that I hadn't felt it initially, and now when I squat, my knees start to ache, or my back hurts, or when I deadlift, or when I run. Whatever the activity that you're feeling it, there's a pattern that this follows that we talk through with all of our clients that come in terms of, okay, why does this injury happen in the first place? And a lot of times it's not exactly what we think it is. So let's talk through exactly what the picture we paint here with our I3 model. So we have three areas of the eye, if you will. We have our incomplete movement patterns, incidence, and injury. So incomplete movement patterns is a big part of our assessment process that we take through. We take all of our clients through to help identify joint by joint. Are your joints working the way they need to? Do you know how to move in the right way? Are you squatting with the right mechanics? Are you running with the right mechanics? Are you doing your pressing and pulling movements with the right mechanics? Any impairment, any limitation within those, what we call our foundational movement patterns, is going to cause other areas to not work as well as they need to. So your knee might be hurting, but if your hip on this side is super stiff, or you don't have the right core strength to support your low back, any of these things can cause the wrong joints, the wrong muscles, the wrong tendons or tissues to be stressed, which is totally fine in the short term. We all have our imbalances, we all have our asymmetries, but it's when those go on for too long, or when you start pushing the volume high enough, then we move into an incidence. And an incidence is where there starts to be some localized inflammation. It might get a little irritated after, say you go on a long run and your knee starts to get tight while you're running. You stop running, maybe it's sore for a little bit, then the next day you wake up, it's totally fine. So in the incidence stage, this is where you're doing an activity that's stressing the area, you stop doing the activity, and it goes away. So that might be something you bench press and your shoulder gets a little tight or achy on the front side of your bench press, you stop doing it, you give it a day to rest, and then all of a sudden it's better. But when we move into the full-blown injury phase, which is where somewhere in between these two stages are where a lot of people will seek out help for us on getting a thorough assessment process done and building out a program, is that we move into the injury phase. And this is where it's not going away with activity. Rest alone isn't enough to get rid of that pain. So maybe after a bench workout, your shoulder gets really sore. After a run, your knee gets sore. But now there's actual local tissue inflammation. There's actual, maybe it's more of a tendonitis, maybe the joint's actually getting stressed. And in this injury phase, it's not just limited to the activity that you're doing. And a lot of times, so say you run, your knee hurts, now it's hurting when you go up and down stairs. If you sit for a while, it gets achy. Maybe before your back would just feel a little tight if you did a deadlift workout. Now, if you sit for too long, if you're standing for too long, you can't really get comfortable with it, and it's lasting for longer periods of time. And once we move from incidence into injury, then what happens with this is obviously a big driver for why people come see us is pain. So injury leads to the pain often that is pain that's not going away with, sometimes even with simple daily activities. Now what we can see with this cycle though, this is still, in our opinion, the most important part of this. And in the context of, we spend a lot of time of building out custom programs for people to make sure that they're not overdoing their volume, which we'll talk about in other videos that we have. But if this part isn't addressed, then this cycle continues. But this is not where most people start, because this is what we call the invisible. And our goal in here with our clients is to take what's invisible and make it visible. You can't always feel if this hip doesn't have full rotation each way. You can't always feel if your ankle's stiff, and that could be what's causing knee pain. Or you can't always feel if one of your shoulder blades isn't as stable or strong as the other one. But those invisible things eventually lead to injury, which eventually leads to pain. Now, if we just focus on the pain, which a lot of people do, so what happens when you get pain? You try and rest it. Maybe you go get a massage or go to chiropractic care. Maybe you try and take some ibuprofen or Advil for it. And if you only try and address the pain, then what happens, even if you get rid of the pain, so even if we take this out of the equation, you rested it for long enough, it's been 6 weeks, you took your ibuprofen, you got your massage, it's starting to feel better. But if we don't address the movement patterns as soon as you jump back into activity, so hey, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna do some light bench press, or I'm gonna take off for a run. I'm used to running 5 miles, I'll just do a light 1 mile jog. But because you still have these incomplete movement patterns, we jumpstart right back into that cycle, and eventually that's why we see the pain come back. So if you find yourself in this cycle, if you find yourself in a place where you just can't seem to get a grip on why your pain keeps coming, or you keep trying to manage the pain, but every time you go back into an activity that you want to do to improve your fitness, to look better, to get stronger, and you find yourself continuing to get hurt or have pain, then it's time to break this cycle by focusing on the movement patterns themselves. So if you guys need any help with this, this is really where our specialty lies in terms of assessing, identifying, making those incomplete movement patterns visible, and then building out a foundational program that's going to help you improve these things so that we can get to the true root cause of what's going on with your pain. So if you guys need help with that, make sure to head to our site, fill out a contact form. If you're watching the video, we'll have a link right here on this page for how to set that up. But we want to take you guys through a consult to help you identify these things so that you don't have to stay stuck in this cycle like people do for honestly far too long. So if you're looking to be proactive and address this before you get in the cycle, that's even better. But even if you find yourself in the injury phase, absolutely this is something you can bounce back 100% from. So reach out to us, let us know if you guys have questions. We'd love to set up a consult with you and talk more about how we can help. So let us know if you guys do have questions, and we'll talk to you soon.